For young people starting their careers, it can often seem that military service and higher education are two very different roads. But for increasing numbers, the path to higher education leads directly through the armed forces. Stay with us as we discuss higher education beyond the GI Bill. Welcome to Veterans Voices. I'm Elena Kim. We opened the show with a brief look at college registration from 1969. It was a time when the draft was active in this country, and for many young people, the only options were military service or college. But those two paths are no longer different. Tonight, we'll be talking with veterans who found that serving their country was a road to funding their education. If you're watching live, we want you to be a part of our conversation. Call us at 925-313-1170. Send us a message through Facebook at Veterans Voices 1, or email us at veteransvoices@contracostatv.org. We want to hear from you. My co-host tonight is fellow Army veteran Stephen Burchick. Our first guests are veterans whose military service helped them to reach their educational goals. I want to welcome Tony Santos and Ana Lopez to the show. Also joining us is Brian Vargas, manager of the Veteran Student Resource Center at San Francisco City College.
We'd like each of you to tell us a little bit about your military career and transition to college. Tony, how about you go first?
Hey, how's it going, guys? I got out of the military in about 2009. I served in the U.S. Army from 2003 to 2009 as a combat engineer. I was stationed in Fort Wainwright, Alaska, and deployed to Iraq for 16 months. And then I got out and basically went to the closest community college I could, and went to Las Positas College, where I met Todd, who you'll see in a second. And yeah.
Awesome.
Well, that was it. Pretty from the hottest place on earth, or the coldest to the hottest place. Ana, tell us about your service.
Hi, thank you for having me. I was in the Army from 2015 to 2019. I was stationed in Fort Carson, Colorado, and I didn't get to deploy, which is, I was looking forward to it, but I did get to train a lot with a lot of soldiers, which I really enjoyed. And after I got out in 2019, I came back home, California, and went to school to DVC, Diablo Valley College, and I just graduated this year, getting my associates in allied health.
Congratulations, Ana.
Thank you.
Brian, I know you have a very interesting military career. Can you tell us about your military career and then your transition to college after?
Sure. Briefly, my name is Brian. I was in the Marine Corps. I served with 3-4 Lima Company in 2000, from 06 to 07. And while I was out there in Iraq, I ended up getting injured. I got medevaced and spent a lot of time recovering, and found my transition leading me straight into college, like Tony, right, and Ana as well, where it was probably one of the most secure places to get your feet under you as a just newly transitioned veteran, right? Living in my car, went from living in my car to couch hopping, trying to figure things out. But it was a wildest time. Went to DVC, went to UC Berkeley a couple times, and I'm enjoying what I'm doing today at City College.
I think we hear a lot about the kind of turbulent transition coming out of the military, add college on top of that, and I know it can get really crazy, so I'd love to talk more about that. But first, can you tell us, this is a question for any of the panelists, did the GI Bill actually help you get into school? Like when we're talking about admissions, Did the GI Bill help you get into school, or did you still need to pass an admissions test or submit an admissions packet? And keep in mind that this is for folks that are just coming out of the military and really wanting to learn about this process. They might not be as familiar with the GI Bill. Anna, can you talk to us a little bit about your entrance to college in that process?
Right. So to get into the community college, I didn't have a problem. I didn't have to really apply. So, but the GI Bill did really help me with, especially playing with bills and all that stuff that's really important, because I think that's the part that and when we're in the military, we think about how we're going to pay for our bills, where we're going to live. So by getting the GI Bill really helps with all that transition. It makes your peace of mind better. So yeah, so with other universities, I don't know how that really works. I've just been to community college, but the GI Bill is a blessing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Brian, I know you started in community college and then you switched to the university level. Do you have some experience with the differences between admissions in the community college level and admissions at the university level?
Yeah, it's changed today, right? I ended up going to Diablo Valley College a while back, but I was on the IGETC plan, which was something where it was, my academic counselor, who we'll get to hear from one here in a moment, right, was able to set me up with an education path that led me into meeting all the requirements that I wanted to make for the major that I had, which was at the time sociology, transferring into social work. So my education counselor helped me really navigate that path while I was at DVC, and then had to still, write a personal statement, had to apply for the school, had to pass all the classes to get into the school. UC Berkeley, right, they keep about a 3.0 GPA thing to get in, so I had to make sure I get good grades at the same time as being stressed out, paying bills, and man, it gets pretty stressed out those first few semesters when you're trying to get your feet going. But as Anna was saying, that GI Bill housing allowance is really helpful for transition veterans who are looking to, try to find a house or live, somewhere nearby the campus that they're going to. So, transitioning, you still have to make all those regular application steps. You don't just get the GI Bill and get to pick, I want to go to a UC or CSU necessarily, unless you've maybe met some requirements out of it. But yeah.
I've got a question for you. Did any of you or some of your friends or buddies apply to any of the online colleges that specifically target veterans as students?
I can't say I did. I feel like I had a couple people in classes who they said they tried like the University of Phoenix or whatever online stuff at the time, but they all ended up coming to more legit schools.
So I want you to talk a little bit more about that, Tony. What was it that went into your selection of a school? I know you say you were looking for something close by, but you obviously made the decision that I don't want to do online school. What was your thought process coming out of the military and searching for the perfect school for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So pretty much, when you're looking at like kind of what Brian was saying, like you want to transfer to UC Berkeley, you want to transfer to some of these, top tier schools, you got to see who kind of feeds into them. And, a lot of the online schools, their classes don't transfer into those types of programs. So you are having to kind of find a school that will transfer into them. And like for me personally, I didn't have the high school GPA to start at a UC or a state school or anything like that. So which is why community college is perfect, because they take that GPA and it goes toward your transferring, and it makes it a lot more competitive.
Nice. Anna, you are in the process of transferring schools. What are some of the
Yes.
things that you kind of wish you knew about this whole transfer process when you first started in college?
I wish I knew which classes I really needed to take. So, which will transfer, like Tony was saying. But just going to DVC, actually, that's been helping me. The counselor's been helping me which classes will transfer to which school. So that's why I also chose to apply for Reno Community College, because they have a program that I really want to join. It's radiology. So I wish I would have known more about those classes. So I think will help me better to look better at other schools. So right now I'm taking a class with Todd Stephan. He's actually my professor. He has this class that makes you research other schools and what you need to get into. So that's the one thing I wish I would have known.
What, was it more complicated to make sure the courses were right for the degree you were pursuing, or to be sure you got funding under the GI Bill? Which was more critical?
I think it's both, because if you take all the classes that you don't need, you're wasting your GI Bill, because GI Bill only lasts you so long, the certain amount of years that you can use it. So if you're taking classes that you don't need, then you're out of the GI Bill, and then you have to pay out of pocket. So I think both are very important.
Brian, it looked like you had some comments on this, and I've heard so many student veterans talking about this wasting your GI Bill or making the most out of your GI Bill. So the GI Bill still is 36 months of educational benefits. It's going to cover the in-state tuition costs, or up to the highest paid in-state tuition costs. And then it's also going to cover a monthly housing stipend. So it sounds like there's a lot of considerations for our student veterans to think of when they're utilizing their GI Bill. Can you share, either from your personal experience, what were some of the things going through your mind as you were using your GI Bill, or in some of the conversations that you've had with student veterans in your role?
For sure. All great points, because having that education plan in place before you get started down an education path that may not lead exactly to where you want to go, or not having the classes to transfer, could really, start to make your plan deviate from where you wanted to start at. But there's a lot of online tools out there that veterans can use that they get, introduced to as they're getting out of the military during their TAPS programs, like the assist.org, which is a great one. The GI Bill comparison tool, which is a great. Well, those two online resources alone, veterans can, we're pretty savvy, computer savvy these days, I would say, getting out. At least more than I was when I got out in 09. I was just kind of like, everything was still paper in 09, right? Right, Tony, right? You got out at the same time. I'm like, you were turning in green slips of paper for our certification request forms, handwriting things in with pencil. And now everything's so digital. It's insane to think about, but it means we've made a lot of progress since then. But, with that being said, you can't just start and then say, oh, how come I haven't gotten paid yet? You come into the BRC, well, we don't, if we're a Veterans Resource Center and you haven't request certification, then you may have, start an education plan that you plotted on your own, not seeing an academic counselor that knows what's going on. And unfortunately, maybe it's not exactly going to meet the major requirements that you want. So you could be potentially wasting some time if you're looking to get in and out of school, right? Like, I had to get my feet wet at first, so it helped me out to, I would say, take some classes, fail a little bit, kind of, like Tony said, I didn't have a great GPA. Like, I barely graduated high school. Shoot, like, it was not easy. So, getting through just the basics of redoing some math classes, some remedial classes to gain that skill set, and then keep moving on. Like, I was there for four and a half years at Diablo Valley College, so it took a while.
Campus I went to, they had student housing and they had married housing. A lot of the veterans were a little older, so that higher percentage are married. In fact, the faculty used to refer to the married housing as the student hatchery, because a lot of them were young, having children while they were still going to school. And
Yeah.
I am glad you brought up the housing, because that's such a challenge for our Bay Area students. And the GI Bill does offer some tuition, they offer tuition assistance, and they also offer a housing stipend. But I'm curious, did any of you go above and beyond and apply for additional scholarships or fellowships to help supplement some of the things that the GI Bill might not have helped you cover?
Absolutely. I was greedy in the sense that, I needed to fund my education, and, I was married at the time. Like, I also made sacrifices too, but there was all kinds of programs, sort of plowshares. Your local VFWs usually have a scholarship. Like, there's usually through your college, they have just a list that you can just apply for, and it's good to just go on there and knock them out.
I had the advice.
I had the sacrifice or luxury, I guess, of being able to live with my wife's parents at the time, and that's kind of how we got by. I knew I was going to be in school for longer than 36 months, so I would save up a chunk of the BAH for the the following semester and just kind of take turns and spread out my funding that way.
Smart. That's really smart, Tony. I swear. I wish a lot more of our student veterans today are just like, I want to go to the school with the highest housing allowance, and I want to blow $5,000 a month, and it's like,
yeah, hey, that truck looks pretty sweet. I should get that. Or like,
yeah, and like, oh, come on, like I get it, but it does run out, like you're saying, and if you're not planning ahead, that if you don't want to go to school during summer, well, then how are you paying for your housing during summer, or you got to live during those 3.5, 4 months. So proper financial planning is, like Tony alluded to, is really important.
Yeah.
I picked up. I also picked a school that the city will pay the most, the BAH. But I was smart enough to save and move to a place where I can afford, but go to a school where I can get more BAH. That's really helpful.
Yeah, that's so smart. I love hearing all of the different strategies. Brian, I know that you mentioned that there was a short time where you were actually homeless, and so it sounds like these money management and time management and really planning ahead are really important. Really quick, we've got about 30 seconds left, Brian. From your experience, both as a student veteran and working with veterans, what's one piece of advice that you would give veterans thinking about higher education right now?
You didn't come this far just to come this far. Apply, and why not apply, right? I mean, in 30 seconds, I would say, don't let someone just discourage you from going somewhere where you think you might fit in. And financial aid is always important.
Yeah.
I don't know, 2 seconds left, maybe.
Super important. No, I love that. So what I'm hearing from the panel today is that the GI Bill isn't your ticket into school, but it is going to help you pay. Plan ahead and talk to your educational counselors and figure out what classes transfer. That's super good advice. And then, of course, money management being so important. So we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we will continue our conversation about service and higher education. Stay with us.
Honestly, I'm not really sure why I'm calling. It's just...
I'm having nightmares.
My husband and I, we're just fighting a lot.
I can't get any sleep.
Things just keep getting worse, and it's starting to feel like I can't do this by myself anymore.
We could use some help figuring things out.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you called. Why don't you tell me more about what's going on? There's no wrong reason to reach out for crisis support. Whatever you're going through, the Veterans Crisis Line is here to help. Visit veteranscrisisline.net to learn more.
We're talking about veterans and higher education. If you're watching live, we invite you to be a part of our conversation. Call us at 925-313-1170. Send us a message through Facebook at Veterans Voices 1, or email us at veteransvoices@contracostatv.org. We want to hear from you. Now, we want to introduce two new professionals who have made careers out of helping veterans achieve their educational goals. Todd Steffen, Veteran Student Counselor and Veteran Service Representative, Ben Yang. Welcome to the show.
Todd, good to see you here. Understand you had a busy night attending some graduations and then racing over to get on the show. You're a multitasker.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, as a designated veterans counselor, what do you do? What are your normal responsibilities?
Definitely, and thanks for inviting me to the show. Listening to the students earlier, and I know a few of them, amazing, right? And then being able to attend the graduation ceremony or the celebration is kind of the selfish side for me, to see the transition to either careers or into transferring to 4 years. But anyways, going myself daily is really, as a counselor, it's a combination from, as we heard earlier, the academic planning. For the veteran-specific counselors, is being able to have some knowledge of the benefits and how to work that, because we've heard about how easy it is to waste time and benefits. And then also having that strong knowledge of all the resources, and then working with, whether it's a certifying official, or I know Brian's done multiple, whether it's also being a manager or coordinator of the vet center. So it's kind of a wide range, and we're here really to help provide some guidance.
Todd, you mentioned the VA certifying official. I want to jump over to Ben and ask you, Ben, you've had some experience as a VA certifying official. For students who are very new to this, what's the difference between a designated veterans counselor and a VA certifying official? And which one should you go to for which issue? Todd's pointing to himself.
Well, I mean, all roles are very important, right? Each role, they have specific tasks and duties that they need to complete. So Todd, being a veterans counselor, helps guides and helps create academic plans for students to achieve their goal. The certifying official would be the one who basically submits your certifications to the VA. That way you could get paid in a timely manner.
Yeah, both very important roles. I'm hearing the designated veterans counselor is going to make sure that you're on the right career track, so you're not wasting those precious months of the GI Bill. But the VA certifying official is really there to make sure that you are getting paid each month appropriately and at the appropriate levels. So that's awesome.
Hey, Ben, can you give us a little of your personal background before you got into this job? Military,
Yeah,
et cetera?
Yeah, sure. So, I started my educational career pretty late. Went to San Francisco State starting in 2011, where I participated in the work study program over on campus. And I was working from the program coordinator's office, assisting with the certifications from 2011 until I took over the position fully in 2014. So I was at San Francisco State as the certifying official and program coordinator from 2014 to 2020 when I made my transition to the Contra Costa County Veterans Service Office.
Okay, and understand we had someone watching the show and they commented that they were impressed with the Marine that they found inspiring in terms of educational achievement. So kudos to you, Mr. Vargas.
So Brian, Ben, Todd, this question is kind of complex, so feel free to jump in if you have something important to add to the conversation. Can you talk about the difference between your traditional GI Bill, your Chapter 33 VA benefits, and then Chapter 31, which is your vocational rehab benefits? Sometimes people think about Chapter 31 in terms of it being an educational benefit, but there's really there's a very clean distinction that the VA likes to make. How would you go about explaining that to a student who's interested in learning about both? Ben, can we start with you on this one?
Yeah, sure. Well, the way I like to describe Chapter 31 VR&E is pretty much kind of like the golden goose egg to Chapter 33. Covers pretty much the same thing, but Elena, as you were saying, Chapter 31 is to assist fellow disabled veterans obtain gainful employment at the end. I think that's where the confusion happens, where veterans are like, oh, I need to further my education. Let me jump on Chapter 31. That's not how it works. Those who already possess a degree, it's harder to get into 31, especially if you're working full time. That's something that the counselors will definitely look into. So in order to get into Chapter 31, you need to have at least a 20% service-connected rating and an employment handicap. So if you're already working, it's going to be kind of hard.
Yeah, that makes sense. Brian, when you're sitting in the Veterans Resource Center on CCSF campus, are the majority of your students using Chapter 33, your traditional GI Bill, or are they coming in under vocational rehab? What are you kind of seeing coming through?
Majority of the time, our veterans are using the Post 9/11 GI Bill, Chapter 33. And right now, that's at about, for this past semester, a couple hundred, about 700 or so students, and about 100 are using Chapter 31, which is the VR&E Veterans Readiness and Employment Program, as they were saying. So yeah, Chapter 33, the Post 11 GI Bill is, crucial, important, because when you get out of the military, right, you don't always you don't come out necessarily with a service-connected disability if you haven't already applied for one. So it's hard to jump right ship to Chapter 31 if, let's say, you get out and you don't have a service-connected disability yet, and someone just wanders into a VRC or onto a campus saying, I'm disabled. Well, does the VA know you're disabled, or have you applied for, as Ben would be certifying their, not certifying their, well, maybe while he was a SEO, but as a veterans rep, right, submitting their claim for service-connected disability, saying, okay, hey, you rate 20% for X and X injury, now you can at the same time look at the difference between VRNE and Chapter 33 as that distinction is employment, right? What is your employment goal versus your educational goal? And does that educational goal have an employment track to it that you need to go to school in order to get this job? I mean, I use both benefits myself, so I would say it can be kind of taxing and difficult to work with your veterans readiness and employment counselors, and also working with your academic counselors, because you need to make sure that they're communicating essentially all through the SEO as well. So it's kind of like a trifecta. When you are on Chapter 31, it's more immersed. The student really needs to be on the ball, thinking about what they're doing, very cognizant of emailing their VRNE counselors, answering any questions, sometimes being a bugaboo, because I swear sometimes the VRNE counselors will not get back to you, and it's not necessarily their fault, but they're pretty overwhelmed, right? The Oakland Regional Office has a pretty heavy caseload, but you will have to be very honest and, emailing them consistently. And it's not just, hey, I'm going to sit here and wait for them to email me. If you haven't heard from your counselor in a while, you need to reach out to them, because, maybe your education plan is up to date, or maybe you changed your major without telling the counselor, and now you're not going to get paid because, well, when they submit your paperwork as the SEO, it doesn't match. And so now there's an issue, and you're upset at the campus and the education side and the VA side, and really, you're just kind of trying to solve problems on your own, which I would say try not to solve problems on your own. Come into a Veterans Resource Center and help come to our one-stop shops, if you will, and get that guidance. Todd can tell you a lot from being, in these roles for a lot of years and seeing the difference between Chapter 33 and 31.
Yeah, that's such excellent advice, Brian. I think what I'm hearing is that it is very challenging to navigate these benefits, but it's okay. You're not alone, right? So you can go in and talk to someone at the Veterans Resource Center. You can go in and talk to a designated veterans counselor. And most importantly, I'm a little bit biased here, but you can go in and talk to your county veteran service officer and really get that counseling to determine which benefit is the best for you, and which ones are you eligible for, which ones might have a higher barrier to eligibility, and how can you use those to really get the best out of your education. So yeah, awesome conversation. In terms of Chapter 35 now, we're talking about dependents education, right? So this is not the veteran themselves, but the son or daughter of a veteran. In terms of Chapter 35, or in California, the college tuition fee waiver, Ben, as a veteran service representative, how often are you seeing these two confused, and how could you kind of very, very generally distinguish the two and which is best for the student?
Yeah, sure. No, I mean, we're seeing it on a daily right now. I mean, dozens and dozens of applications for the college fee waivers are coming in just because
it's the
tax
season.
season's over,
Yeah,
school's getting ready. Yeah, but just a quick overview for the college fee waiver. The veteran themselves only need to have a 0% rating, 0 to 100. If they have 100%, then permanent total rating, then their dependents and also the spouse, they're eligible for the dependents education assistance, which pays a monthly stipend when going to school. Of course, just like any chapter benefit except for 31, the school needs to be VA approved. So make sure you check with your Veteran Resource Center, your certifying official at your institution, to make sure that they can use that chapter benefit. But for the college fee waiver, The most popular one, of course, is Plan B, which is based off of not just the rating, but also how much the student made, which is the national, it can't exceed the national poverty level, which is $15,225. But if the veteran is 100%, we want to make sure that they take advantage of both Chapter 35 and Plan B.
Yeah.
Because the tuition fee waiver will cover the tuition while the 35 will pay the stipend.
Yeah, that's so important. And Ben, I want to just reiterate a point that you made, which is for the college tuition fee waiver, which again, we're talking about a California state benefit, not a federal VA benefit. It's really based off, if you're applying for that Plan B, it's based off of the student's income, not the veteran's income. I think a lot of veterans think, I make too much money for my son or daughter to take advantage of this benefit, but that's absolutely not the case. It's based off of the son or daughter and their income. So thank you for making that point. I want to just jump over to healthcare because I know that this is something that a lot of younger veterans are not thinking about. Is it important to apply for veterans' healthcare benefits while you're a student veteran? Brian, would you recommend this for a student who comes into the Veterans Resource Center?
100%, yes. I'll tell you what, when you get out the military, you are not as put together as you were when you went in 4 years, 3 years before that. Just going through those first 3 months of boot camp is going to put some wear and tear on your knees, and your back, maybe your ankles, whatever the case is, right? But it's important to use the student veterans. At our school, we have something that's called the Student Veterans Health Program, right? We have a MOU between our office and the San Francisco VA, but they go out and do awesome outreach to not just our community college at City College San Francisco, but the UC system, UC Berkeley. They go to Diablo Valley College out here in Pleasant Hill. They hit a lot of schools up and really get immersed into the students that are on campus there, because those mental health challenges that we all face of anxiety getting crazy, panic attacks getting crazy, stressed out, because not only am I not sleeping because I'm, not used to being not in this 9 to, the 24/7 routine of being in the military. Now I'm out of the military, going to school. It's more on my own. I'm not sleeping. I'm getting irritated by younger students in my class. If you're just, frantic a little bit and kind of frustrated like I would get, really just hold it in, and all of a sudden it just comes out, right? We have resources on campus for veterans that, at least at our school, I know we do, and a lot of our community colleges in the Bay Area take advantage of the Student Veterans Health Program, but as well as just, anybody using healthcare. I mean, go get your healthcare. Seriously, if you've served a day after 9/11, I don't care, go get your healthcare. Just go get checked out.
Very nice.
Okay, I got a question for Todd. We're talking about a lot of government benefits, but I understand some of the campuses have some kind of a pantry or items donated by community groups to support students that don't come from the government. I understand you're trying to set up some kind of a pantry on campus?
Yeah, thanks. The colleges, community colleges, I can speak for, and definitely refer to Brian and Ben. They know that different shapes and sizes of veterans programs, right, and resource centers. But a lot of the colleges have, in addition to their vet centers, have pantries now and for food insecurities and partnering. But what you're asking is the partnerships with some of our amazing community organizations, like the Vietnam Vets of Diablo Valley, where they are partnering with us to provide, additional food or diapers or whatever it may be. So there's a lot of great resources. The challenge is getting our veterans, and you guys can chime in, is getting them not to ask, but to ask and not feel like it's asking for help, right? Utilizing that. And it's been kind of a challenge since COVID, getting them back engaged in the vet centers and utilizing those types of resources. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's available outside of the federal and state resources.
Yeah, I love that we're touching on all of the benefits and resources from the federal level into the state, and then even down to your local community and what programs might be available for you there. So something to keep in mind for our student veterans is, really get creative and think outside of the box. And a great message, like you said, Todd, is to ask for help when you need it, and don't pigeonhole yourself into only veterans benefits, because there might be other student benefits on campus that are not veteran specific that you can, gain a lot from. So really great discussion there. Housing, we talked about this a little bit in our first segment. This is a big issue. For anyone who wants to jump in, Todd, Ben, or Brian, what kind of support can veterans find for housing, especially locally? Is there anything out there for our student veterans locally? Todd, do you want to start us off if you know of anything local?
There are some different groups, and I think Tony Santos earlier mentioned Swords of Plowshare, some organizations that provide housing. Although it is a challenge, even these organizations that are providing housing, some of the wait lists, we're still facing that. I mean, it's definitely a national crisis, and definitely in the Bay Area. Trying to see if I know some colleges and some of the community colleges now are starting to plan on building housing. Some of the CSUs and UCs already have it and are expanding, but it is still, we'll try to connect with any of the resources, Contra Costa County, Alameda, some really good resources, working with the vet centers that are in the county offices, but it is a challenge, right? I don't know if the other two can chime in more.
Yeah, no, I mean, Brian knows when I was at San Francisco State, housing was terrible. Even though San Francisco has the highest BAH, especially with vets with families, trying to support the families, things like that, and having to worry about housing where it could cost you, $1,000 to $2,000 a month just to have a roof over your head. But I think the best resource, in all honesty, is, fellow vets, right? That's what I saw a lot in San Francisco. Vets asking other vets for, if they need a place to stay, either helping them out, letting them, crash on their couch or split a room.
Yeah, it's important to tap into that network. Thank you, Ben. Brian, I think you have some personal experience with this. Any tips for veterans who might be struggling with housing?
Don't count out the HUD-VASH program. That is an excellent program that a lot of veterans can take advantage of in the Bay Area. If you have a service-connected disability, if you already have some sort of steady income, you can look at the VA home loan process. If you're looking to actually buy a house and set roots down, that's definitely an option. The California Department of Veterans Affairs, they have the CalVet home loan as well. So there's a lot of different resources out there for, I guess buying a home but that is, again, in this Bay Area, it's pretty expensive to buy a house regardless these days. So renting.
Very good advice. Yeah, especially that GI Bill, the housing program. A lot of people don't think of that. So thank you so much for your tips. When we return, we will conclude our conversation and answer all of our viewer questions. So stay with us.
Whether you're about to leave the service or been out for decades, your veterans benefits just got a whole lot better. With the PACT Act, now even more veterans are eligible for VA health care.
Welcome to the VA.
And for those already enrolled, you will see a rapid expansion of services and programs.
Hi, I'm Dr. Hoy. How can I help?
To learn what VA can do for you, visit va.gov/PACT or call 1-800-MyVA411.
We're talking about veterans and higher education. If you're watching live, we invite you to be a part of our conversation. Call us at 925-313-1170. Send us a message through Facebook at Veterans Voices 1 or email us at veteransvoices@contracostatv.org. We want to hear from you.
A couple quick questions for Anna and then Tony. What was the best decision you made about your education and the worst one? Maybe the worst one first.
Gotta share it all.
The worst one was for me not actually picking the career that I wanted to do, that I knew it wasn't gonna take me too long. At first I started with computer science and I realized it's gonna take me a long time to do it. So then I changed to allied health, which was gonna be a few years less than computer science. So I think that was my experience, and I'm really happy I switched because I'm gonna be able to take advantage of the GI Bill.
That's awesome.
Sounds like the military experience, adapt and overcome.
Yes.
Tony, what about you?
For me, the best thing I did was I just did it, right? Kind of like Brian was saying, right? Like you just got to do it. Don't let anyone kind of get in your way. If you want to do it, it's something you should do. I mean, I had other offers, right? Like I was offered like, a plumbing job from a guy I knew, and like, there's other trade schools and stuff like that I could have done. And I just, I guess I just wanted more and more, and I kept after it. And I think that's what really paid off for me in the end. As far as the worst decision, I don't think I really had one. Like I changed my major like 2 or 3 times, which was definitely a pain in the butt. But I didn't pigeonhole myself. I didn't say like, oh, well, I didn't pass this, calculus class, so I guess I can't pass college, So it's like I just kind of, ebbed and flowed my journey, and it's a process that you have to go through, and sometimes there's some growing pains.
That's such excellent advice, and thank you both for sharing, Anna and Tony. We actually have a viewer question for you. This is coming from Paul from Martinez. Paul's asking, for any of our student veterans out there, is college anything like the military? And if I was good at my job in the military, does that translate to being a good student in college? Thank you for the question, Paul.
I was going to say that's a really good question. And yes, you can do it for sure. I think we're all going to agree on that here. And let's see, just the discipline and attention to detail that you learn in the military and at your specific, doesn't matter what your job was. You could have been a mechanical engineer, you could have been motor T, infantry. That attention to detail that you get from the military, right? That mission accomplishment, that task efficiency, and proper use of time is all going to translate to anything you do in college. Anything, writing a paper, raising your hand at least once in class would be one tip I give for any student that is looking just to get participation points. Ask one question in class. That was my secret to getting at least knowing I knocked off the participation point, because every syllabus can be like 10% is participation. Ask one question. It was like one rule I gave myself was, all right, ask a question in each class and then make yourself be a part of the class. Otherwise, because there were times where it would just be myself and the instructor having a conversation, right? And just have to be honest with people. Well, you're coming in a little bit older, a little bit more experienced. And I think that brings a lot of value to the table. So yes, you can do it. And yes, your job in the military, no matter what it was, applies to college.
Also, the way I see it is when we go training, well, after we finish training, the whole week or month, whatever time we went there, how I see it is, okay, I finished my training. Now I finished my semester. I feel good about it. That's how I see every semester. Training, finished, done. You're good. You can do it. Anybody can do it. Just you have to have the will to do it.
I'd say one of the biggest differences is that you kind of lack the camaraderie, right? Like you don't have your unit, you don't show up every morning for formation with your squad and all that kind of stuff. But that's the huge benefit of the student vet centers, right? You go there, you meet them, you hang out, you still can bond and have that. So it's important to take advantage of the resources.
And we have another viewer question. Actually, you guys are very popular tonight. This is a question from Andrew from San Pablo. How much does the GI Bill pay? Will it, meaning college, still be expensive for me? I'm not making a lot of money right now. What are your thoughts on? Go ahead, Anna.
In my opinion, it's with me, my experience is I chose to go to Delaware Valley College because it's in Pleasant Hill. The GI Bill is high. The BAH is high, and so it's about $3,500 a month. And also they'll give you $500 for books, and they will pay for your tuition. So I think that's really good for surviving a little bit if you don't have a lot of money. And if you're good with saving, you're gonna be able to, make it expand a little bit.
Yeah, I think it was brought up earlier that it kind of depends on your situation at home too, because if you're supporting a family, obviously the tuition is paid for, but that housing stipend might not be enough depending on what location you're going to school. and so that's something to keep in mind. You know, one thing that we didn't touch as a part of your Chapter 33 benefits, the post 9/11 GI Bill, is while you're going to school, you can do VA work study, where you can participate in the VA work study program. Do we have any VA work study participants or anyone with experience in working with our VA work studies on the campus?
Yeah, I was a work study. So it looks like Tony was a work study. I mean, I have work studies that work for me in my office today. It's a huge part of our success in the Veterans Resource Centers, building that camaraderie like Tony was talking about, and just keeping a machine well-oiled, right? When students come in, they want to talk to someone that can relate, and having that person at the front there after you've gone through a semester typically, right? And you have your grounding under you, and you can essentially explain 10 steps to somebody and give them some reminders. It's a really good program to get a part of, the VA Work Study program.
Brian, you mentioned earlier something about a comparison tool for evaluating the
Yeah, I just put that link in
compensation.
the chat box there for the viewer question. I think it was Adam. He was asking how much do I get paid? So you can use that GI Bill comparison tool link I put in the chat box for you. Just type in the school that you're interested in going to, and it'll give you the information there from A to Z, how many students going using GI Bill at that institution, how much the housing allowance is. I believe right now at City College San Francisco, it's about $4,700 or so a month, which is about the highest one of the highest in the nation. I think we might be competing with like Manhattan or Hawaii or somebody, or some state, right, or area. Either way, it doesn't matter what. I would say just for any student, don't let just the high housing allowance be what draws you to the school. Okay.
Very good advice.
I mean, it's great to have a high housing allowance, but at the same time, make sure it fits your program, make sure it fits your needs as a student, as a family. You know, if you have to commute a long drive, I commuted from Antioch all the way to DVC, and that was not very far, but you know, driving is hard for me. And then from, you know, Antioch to Berkeley, and then from Antioch to San Francisco, it's taxing on the body and your physical and mental health. So just think about all those things. It's not just about the highest housing allowance.
Yeah, not everybody can see the chat on our television.
Oh.
So if they just Google VA benefits comparison tool.
Yeah, GI Bill comparison tool, it'll come up.
Yeah. I want to go back to the VA work study program. Todd, it looked like you had something to talk about, but Brian talked about how important it was in terms of participating in the VA work study program for camaraderie. But can you give us just a basic sense of the program, Todd? You know, is it going to help me get paid a little bit extra? Is it a struggle to apply? Talk to me about what the program is.
Yeah, you know, the VA work study, I'm a big supporter. You know, didn't serve a dependent of a veteran, and had the opportunity for many years to be a coordinator and certifier. And I tell you, the VA work study were the heart of the veterans program. They were the ones at the front, talking to individuals, connecting, the ones that have been around. You do make, you know, and there's rules that you have to be 3/4 time using your benefits. It's open to dependents too that are using, we mentioned Chapter 35 or transfer entitlement. So not just our veterans, our dependents that we're seeing on our campus. It pays non-tax minimum wage, but it's non-tax on campus. And I'm a big supporter for the academic side too. From my years of experience, and you look at any research, those who work on campus as student assistants, VA work study, they tend to do better. They get engaged, they find out all the resources. And I remember my work study at both institutions are the ones that find out, oh, we just got warrior tickets. The first ones to get that kind of stuff too, right? But great program.
Yeah, it's also helping to build that. It's another way to help build that resume while you're still participating in your classes. And typically, if you do your VA work study participation, it has to be at a VA approved site. And typically, those folks who are supervising you are going to be really understanding of the fact that you're a student, really understanding of the fact that you are a veteran, and really understanding of the fact that you're juggling, you know, education, jobs, other jobs sometimes, family. So I think it's a program that a lot of folks don't talk about, but we should talk about more because it definitely helps with adding a little bit of a pot of money to that tuition help and to the student, the stipend. So, Anna, when you were going to school, were you just doing full-time school or were you juggling work as well? Can you talk to us a little bit about that experience?
I was only in school. I was trying to focus just in school. I'm lucky my wife has a job, so I was able to, not worry about money too much. So yeah, I was just doing full-time school. Now I am doing part-time school and part-time work.
Nice. What about you, Tony? Did you have a similar experience or were you juggling kind of multiple things when you were going to school?
Yeah, no, I definitely took advantage of the work study program. I probably worked at admissions and records at Las Positas College for the whole 3 years I was there. And to be honest, I had an awesome experience because there was me and 2 other vets, and we would go in there and we would just bullshit and do all the clerical work and whatever else. And it was a great way to, earn some extra money and also not have, it wasn't a terrible way to do it.
Nice.
I got a question about students who are using the GI Bill, studying, building a career, working part-time. Do veteran students have time for extracurricular activities? Some of those can help either in admissions to other higher level institutions or just supplement career skills. Any thoughts on extracurricular, sports, newspapers, drama, music?
Yeah, so I like talking about the camaraderie thing again. I was really kind of hurting for that piece, and so one of the things I did was I joined the Contra Costa County Search and Rescue Team, and I did that for probably 2 years in community college before I transferred to University of San Francisco, where I started like a hardcore nursing program when I didn't have time, but it was awesome.
That's excellent. We actually have another viewer question. This is from Thomas in Pleasant Hill. Thomas says, I am very reluctant to start school because I have no idea what I want to do. What should I do?
I can actually answer that question because right now I am taking a class with Todd. He's my professor. He has this class that it makes you research exactly, it makes you think about things that you want to do and what you're good at or not. And it's just like all the research we do, it make me feel like this class should be the first one you ever take in college. I think Todd could tell more about it.
Go ahead, Todd.
Yeah, I need a pen. She's already getting a great grade, so I can't give her extra credit to get better. But I agree, and it's a challenge. We talk about veterans and taking classes are required. That class, that we teach, and a lot of colleges have it. It's like a career life planning. Doesn't always fit with their education plan, but it's a course that, some schools it's 1 unit, 3 units. The value of that, I think, especially where you're trying to figure out, I'm not sure what I want to do. And as Tony mentioned, switching programs, those who are going to use Chapter 31, a lot of the tools that are out there that Brian mentioned as well, where they're available. And I try to bring in my class anyways. I'm not trying to get enrollment, but I'll put my number on there. I'd love to have veterans in my class because my vets in my class, I love all my students, but the veterans are the ones that are always having that. And I think it's the maturity, that level of experience, having the conversation, and that builds that class too. But there are other resources, career planning centers, career transfer centers on campus that you can get a lot of those resources too. But yeah, I think, and I love that. I wish every student would take, and some colleges actually have, I think Berkeley has a veterans class, right? And doing that kind of stuff.
I'm hearing that a lot of schools now are incorporating these really amazing courses that Anna brought up and that Todd is teaching about, exactly this question that our viewer is asking is like, okay, I know I have these amazing benefits, but what do I do now that I have them? Steve, we got our GI Bill from our World War II veterans and them advocating for better opportunities when they came back from war. So I think that one of the things that I always think about with my GI Bill is I'm so appreciative for those veterans that came before me and you know, our Vietnam veterans continued to advocate for the GI Bill to become even better, and our post 9/11 GI, our post 9/11 veterans, you know, continue to advocate. So this is a benefit that continues to grow, and each of you are now a part of that. So I love how motivating this conversation has been. Thank you all for sharing each of your individual stories. Anna, Tony, Brian, for, you know, being our student veterans and talking about that experience. And then Todd, Brian, and Ben for sharing, you know, really that perspective from a subject matter expert. I think the most important thing that we can really remind our veterans who are getting out of the military, who have access to this amazing benefit, is get motivated. Don't feel discouraged, because, you know, these are your benefits, and if you're not 100% sure on how to use them, look at our panel today and everything that you guys have done with these programs. So thank you so much for being here. Tony, I'm going to end with you. What is one piece of advice that you would give that soldier, Marine, airman, or sailor who is getting out of the military right now and wanting to come on a college campus? We've got about 30 seconds left.
Come on, let's go. Just do it. You know,
Short and sweet. That's great.
That's perfect. Thank you so much, Tony. And thank you again to everyone. That ends our panel conversation for the evening. Again, I want to thank all of our guests from the bottom of my heart. And we want to leave you with some resources to help veterans seeking higher education.
We hope you have enjoyed our conversation about higher education tonight. We leave you with some resources if you found our conversation inspiring. If you want to look into your educational benefits, your county veteran service officer is a great place to start. To find a county veteran service officer near you, go to nacvso.org. To explore what the VA has to offer for veteran education, visit the education section at va.gov. To register for health care through the VA healthcare system, go to va.gov and look for the healthcare section. Veterans Voices is brought to you in part by contributions from the Diablo Valley Veterans Foundation, dedicated to helping veterans near you. American Legion Post 246, honoring the tradition of the American Legion in Danville. If you would like to help sponsor Veterans Voices, you can donate to Veterans Voices, care of Diablo Valley Veterans Foundation. Get in touch with them at diabloveterans.org. To rewatch tonight's episode, check back on our homepage later this week, or check your cable provider's schedule for rebroadcast times. You can also rewatch this episode and many others on our YouTube channel, Veterans Voices of Contra Costa, so be sure to subscribe. Our next show will air on Monday, June 12 at 7 p.m. We will be talking with veterans who have become athletes and referees. You won't want to miss it. To all of our veterans and their families, thank you for serving. To all of you who tuned in tonight, thanks for watching and have a great evening.